The Blues Fan Forum podcast is presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media Group. I-70 strives to bring you the best sports coverage in the tri-state area. Find them on Facebook or at interstate70sports.media.
This is Jordan Bennington, and you're listening to the Blues Fan Forum podcast.
Skating on the ice, under St. Louis city lights, where the Blues play with all their might. Jordan Cairo, fast on the attack, but defense falters, gotta cut him some slack. In rubber tongues, we find our glory. His skills shine, the team's best story. St. Louis Blues, we wear the crest. In Jordan Bennington, we put our trust to the test. On the ice, we fight, and we must, for the city we love. In the blue, no we'll thrust.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to episode 152 of the Blues Fan Forum podcast, your source for Blues news, views, and fan interviews, presented by Scooters Coffee. Blues fans can score amazing drinks like the signature Caramelicious, served hot, iced, or blended, with world-class espresso, fruit smoothies, Scoot energy infusions, and so much more. That is amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. Scooters Coffee. I think I've said this multiple times, but this may actually be the final episode of that introduction that we just saw, because there's a lot of highlighted players in that video and in that song that might not be on the Blues by the time we're recording this time next week. Episode 152, Dakota is here. How are you, Dakota?
I'm good. Sorry I was late, everyone. So if you're tuning in, I know we're a little late, but that was because of me. I'm excited because we're going to get to talk trades. And I know we're all watching our phones, seeing if old Dougie's going to sit on his hands. But hopefully we get to discuss a little bit of that, about that in this podcast. And hey, who knows? Yeah, next time we're talking, stranger shit can happen. So,
Right.
Here's everyone.
All right. And then a special guest for this week that is here to talk about trades with us is Richard. How are you, Richard?
I'm doing good. I am ready to have some conversation. We'll see if anybody likes me more or less after this.
All right. I appreciate you coming on. Were you excited when we kind of teed up that you were going to be here for the little pre-trade deadline show?
Yeah, I mean, I love talking trade stuff, just with the Blues and watching around the league. I probably have a lot of controversial opinions when it comes to that, but I think I have a pretty good track record as far as making some good guesses.
Awesome. Controversial opinions make for great content. That's why we have Dakota.
Yes.
All right. Couple of updates before we dive on in. I do need to remind you guys about our St. Louis Blues watch party coming up on March 12th. That is in, what's today, the 3rd? That's 9 days. You guys, Thursday. You guys can catch us at Fridays South in Collinsville. The Blues take on the Carolina Hurricanes. Puck drop is at 6. We will be there at 5. Just like any other watch party that we do. Great atmosphere. Friday South has some really good food. The pizza looks really good. They obviously have beer, and any beer is good beer. So that'll be fine. But we'll have giveaways. We will have raffle items for jerseys, for tickets, whatever it is. So just come have a good time with whatever Blues team we end up putting on the ice at that point. Mm-hmm. So that is next Thursday coming up, right? That would be the 12th. Yes. Next Thursday. Oh, and I have school off that Friday. I didn't even know that. Well,
Friday the 13th.
I don't have kids that day. I still have to go in for meetings, but no students. So that makes the day a lot easier. Ooh, now I can have even more fun on Thursday. That's perfect. All right. Friday South, Collinsville, March 12th. Come hang out with us. The only other thing, we were going to kind of breeze by the St. Louis Blues are still playing hockey. That's going on. We got all excited about the Olympics, and then we've come back to the Olympics and the Blues are still playing. So Blues have played 3 games since the Olympic break. We are 2-1 with some good wins over Seattle 5-1, and then an even better win over Minnesota 3-1. Both of those games, Joel Hofer was in net. And then a loss to the New Jersey Devils and Mr. America Jack Hughes. We lost in that game 3-1. Richard, anything from any of those 3 games that has caught your eye, maybe even related to the trade deadline coming up, or just the Blues and how they're playing?
Probably nothing trade deadline related other than the return of Robert Thomas. He's been away for a while, and he's looked good, so that's certainly not going to hurt any. If anybody's looking at him for a trade, they're going to see a player that's ready to play again. Really, I was just happy to see some fun to watch games. Even the loss to New Jersey, it was 3-1. There was an empty netter. It was really 2-1, so it was a tight game for a lot of that, and it was fun to watch. I could sit there and be entertained. Well, that's not always been the case this season. There's a lot of games where kind of struggling to make it through to the end. I'm too much of a fan to quit, but it's not been easy.
All right. Dakota, anything from those 3 games?
Other than the fact that I'm on the let's just implode train, seeing us, start off 2-1, good to see. Again, like Richard mentioned, I like good hockey, right? Like you want to watch your team, you don't want to watch them, succeed. But as far as kind of going towards the future, like I like to talk about, kind of sucks because you're like, man, I kind of hope they do tank a little bit, or at least stay where they're at. Like at least have a decent showing that we still get Ivar Stenberg, barring anything that happens. But no, like you mentioned before, it was good. It was good hockey. Like the New Jersey game, like I honestly kind of thought that the ice was kind of tilted towards the third period. There were some bad breaks. It could have gone either way. I think we've come out of the break playing really good. A couple new faces in Finley. Finley's looked good, as much as ice as he's seen. But the things that suck is seeing Fabry and Joseph, not on the roster. I think those guys could have added a lot of energy. They play with a lot of heart. Just seeing Pavel Buchnevich still not just being non-existent is kind of demoralizes your thoughts of maybe getting rid of him. But I'm happy to see that the team has come out and done well post Olympic break. So we shall see.
Do the wins, Dakota, you brought up Ivar Stenberg. Do the wins concern you about, Doug's going to see this and think that this team can make a comeback and do a post 4 Nations run type thing? Richard, does that concern you at all?
No, it's a different team, different year. I think Doug already knows where we are. We'll see what happens with trades, but I think he's completely lost faith. And maybe that's harsh. I think he knows what the team is now, and he knows that even if we do get some sort of an uptick and play well, that it's not going to fix next year.
I mean, I hope as president of Hockey Ops after this year, he still has a little bit of give a fuck in him. Apologies on the old F word. This is a kids podcast. But I mean, honestly, like I do think that he needs to at least care a little bit, because the guy that's going to be taking your position is a former player, has probably next to nothing and experience-wise. He's learning from you. And if he's learning all these bad traits, such as sitting on your hands at the trade deadline, like that's not something that we want to see going forward. Your team has kind of self-imploded. We had a decent roster coming out of last year's playoff run. And to be honest, we were looking really good on paper. And then to kind of see what we've done this season is kind of, I don't know. I think it's exposed the team a lot in areas that we really didn't feel like we needed to cover a lot this year. Goaltending being one of them, having a 1A and 1B in Benner and Hofer, that's exposed a lot. You lose a guy like, why can't I think of his name? Colton Ellis, and everybody kind of loses their mind and being like, what are we doing? I thought that, Ellis was the guy of the future. We thought wrong. And you lose guys, exponentially, like Joseph. Bukestad's already gone this year. What are we doing, right? We've kind of self-imploded. Watching Alexander Steen take the helm, I really hope he learns what not to do from Doug Armstrong. But yeah, we've been exposed this year.
All right. Couple moves that have happened in the last few weeks. Dakota brought up Matthew Joseph. He did get sent down to Springfield. Sam has already Oh, there it is. It's like it's taking its time. We're a little laggy today. Sam's already met him down in Springfield, says he's so nice. He is typically either the winner or the runner up in our Blues Fan Forum Hot or Not. So I know the girls were pretty sad to see Joseph go. He did make it through waivers, which surprised me a little bit. I see him as a player that could help be on the bottom 6 for a playoffs team. Robbie Fabry also gets sent down, and he gets picked up by the Minnesota Wild. Richard, were you surprised by either of these moves as far as the Blues trying to get them through waivers, or the lack of Joseph getting picked up, or the fact that Fabry did?
Not really. I mean, I love Joseph too. He was an energetic player and he was fun to watch. But let's face it, he's a third liner, and we have a lot of people who are really good on a third line right now. We need people who are good on the first and second line. So Joseph was an easy one to send down because he's clearly not the answer for the future. As far as why he didn't get picked up on waivers, I'll give you about 2.8 million reasons why most teams didn't pick him up. Whereas Fabry was league minimum, I think 775. Now, I mean, Fabry, of course, has a long history. We could talk about his career for quite some time, but he came in and did his job. I'm not going to say anything bad about the guy, and it's an easy pickup for somebody else. It's low risk. They can play him when they want him and then send him out if somebody else takes him. Not a problem.
Yeah, that was the only thing Richard brought up. The 2.8 million is his cap hit being the problem of why nobody would pick him up. So I would say there might still be a market out there for Joseph to get traded where we eat half of his cap and we get a 5th round pick or something. If cap was the issue, typically when you have these teams that are trying to win the Stanley Cup, they are right up against the cap. So yeah, easier to pick up Fabry than it would have been Joseph. All right. Let's dive on in then. It is March 3rd. Which means we are 3 days away from the NHL trade deadline. It would be Friday, March 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern. So 2 p.m. our little St. Louis Standard Time here. That's going to be, I'm going to have to find something to do at work where I can hand the kids a worksheet or something and just read Twitter for a couple hours, like afternoon. So that's coming up this Friday. We did have some traction today, as it seems the Robert Thomas rumor train was really the first one to leave the station, which in my opinion is unfortunate because if I'm trading anybody, Robert Thomas is towards the bottom of that list. Like for me, it's Falk, it's Shen, it's Kyrou, it's Binnington before Robert Thomas. But I do understand that Robert Thomas is the best player. Robert Thomas is going to bring you back the best return. Richard, I know you said you were kind of paying attention and following the news today. Just general thoughts on Robert Thomas possibly being shipped out of St. Louis before we get into maybe some specific trade ideas.
I mean, I'm skeptical that it's going to happen. I'll be honest with you, some of the rumors, and they're just rumors at this point that I've been seeing, but the names being thrown around, people are throwing some serious collateral at the idea of getting a Robert Thomas. These are not, this would not be a small return, and it needs to not be a small return. So, I'm not too disheartened by at least what that might be. I mean, clearly I'm like everybody else. I'm a big fan of Robert Thomas. The big Hollywood no at just the idea that he could be traded. But if we're really going to look for the future, if we really want to build a great team in the long run, there is nobody that's going to give us a better return on this team. I know we all want to trade Binnington first. I know we all want to trade Shen first. But I don't know. We're not going to get the return for those players. They don't have the stats right now to back that up. They don't have what looks like the future that teams would want out of them to get a big return. So if we're going to go big, also look at something like the Rantanen trade. Colorado gets rid of Mikko Rantanen. You say, well, that's one of their best players. How are they going to survive that? They're playing better. Now, some of that's because they got Jack Drury and Marty Necas in return, and that really filled spots that they needed. And now they're just, an offensive juggernaut. So, you got to keep that in mind. It can work. It can happen. I'm going to be heartbroken when it does, but we'll all forget about it in 2 or 3 years when we're making deep playoff runs.
Yeah, and that Rantanen trade, you're trading a premier winger in the NHL for that. Marty Nikas is the big return there, and he wasn't necessarily at premier winger yet, but he was still at really, really good winger, which a lot of these trade ideas that you're seeing online, especially in the Robert Thomas deals, seem to involve more younger prospects, but they're supposed to be getting to that kind of premier level, or they're at least high first round picks. The asking price Doug Armstrong has kind of thrown out there is that he wants the equivalent of 3 first round picks, whether that means
half.
Yeah. What's that?
He specifically said top half of the first round.
Top half of the first round. So yeah, he's looking for either a pick in the top 15 or somebody who has previously been picked in the top 15. Let me see. Mike gave us something here. Buffalo made a nice offer according to the rumor mill. Owen Power is in the deal. So that's interesting, Mike, because the last thing I read was that Owen Power was not going to be included in that. I don't remember. Actually, I think it was Jordan Schmaltz.
Yeah.
Jordan Schmaltz put out that he would not be. If Owen Power is in that deal, I am definitely interested in making it. If Owen Power is not, and I think they also kind of came out and said Bowen Byram also would not be in that deal. You're not going to get a defenseman in that deal, or at least a top one. It would depend on the forward returns.
Go
ahead, Dakota.
The trade potentially is what we're seeing now is like the Sabres are going to offer Owen Power, Konsta Helenas, I'm definitely butchering that dude's name, and potentially Jack Quinn. That's what's been proposed. Allegedly, what has been talked about. I think we win here. Do we lose an absolute lethal shot and an offensive-minded player in Robert Thomas? Yes, but I believe with Dalibor Dvorsky and Jimmy Snuggerud, the two-headed monster that we've basically come to love now, I think you do that. I do. And believe me, everybody knows on this podcast how much of a homer I am for Robert Thomas. Like, there's no question. But hypothetically speaking, how good your team's going to get, not to mention you're still going to get a top 10 draft pick if, barring anything crazy happens to our team. So, I mean, I think we go and try to get something for someone.
An element that people aren't talking enough about with Robert Thomas, and I love Thomas too, and he's one of those premier players. But the guy came into the league and won the Stanley Cup his rookie season at 18 years old. There's nowhere to go but that, from that. Like he did everything his first year.
He peaked at 18.
Yeah. So, you have to ask a question of that guy who's looking at, coming into a team that was at its peak, who's now down on the downslope. Is he going to be around where he wants to be when the roller coaster goes back up? Or does he want a chance to go to another team and prove that he can do it again? And I mean, if I'm being honest, I think Robert Thomas might be interested in that.
All right.
Absolutely.
It's got to be nice to be in Robert Thomas's situation too, of with his no trade clauses. If he doesn't want to go there, he can say no. Like that's his right. That's his power. That's what he's earned by being one of the best players in the NHL of getting that no trade clause. Richard, what's your thoughts on if that's Buffalo's offer? If it is Owen Power, Konsta Helenas, and Jack Quinn, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, assuming that is the offer, I think you got to take it. I think you got to really seriously consider that. Of course, I'm actually a fan of Doug. I know a lot of people aren't. I think he makes a fair number of good deals, and I think he is a decent negotiator. I think many times his hands are tied. But right now, he's holding all the cards with Robert Thomas. He has Robert Thomas and a no trade clause. Everything goes through him. And a few teams are just salivating at the idea of adding somebody of his caliber. So I think he can take him to the cleaners if need be. So I think that's definitely the kind of trade that it's going to have to be to get there. I almost question if you don't throw another pick in just to put the screws to him a little bit more and pad the future just a little bit more. But that's a heck of a place to start.
Yeah, I think I would be smashing accept on that. You got a Owen Power, former number 1 overall pick, who I know has not lived up to number 1 overall pick value, but still a good NHLer. You have Constant Helenius, who was a top pick in the draft a couple years ago. I know I had him kind of on our radar to pick up. And then Jack Quinn, 8th overall. So pretty solid return there.
It's a good return for a guy we got 20th overall.
Right? Exactly. All right. I had a couple of other trade thoughts that were sent to me from Cody. Cody is the guy that we have on every year to do kind of our draft breakdown show. So he is just an avid draft guy. He loves looking at prospects and kind of following that part of the NHL. So he's got a general idea of what these guys are worth and what these guys are projected to turn into. The biggest rumor right now, as far as Robert Thomas deals, is going to be with the Utah Mammoth. The return rumor wise, or at least something that Cody would agree with, is that Caleb Desnoyers, it's a weird name. For some reason, I always want to say Destroyer, but there's no T in it.
I think it's Denoyers.
Denoyers?
I think that's right, but
okay.
I could be wrong.
So him, and then Dmitry Shimashev, and then throwing in either a 26 or a 27 first-round pick. Richard, any thoughts on that one?
So I also saw them throw in Iginla. That name there as well.
Yep.
I saw that, you're looking at a similar situation where these are people, these are some high drafts. So far we mentioned Buffalo and now Utah. If you look over the last 5 years, these are both teams that have had a lot of draft picks and a lot of good draft picks. So these are teams that have the return available, what we want, because we don't necessarily want new, we don't want 2026 or 2027 picks. That's going to give us something 3 or 4 years down the road. We want people who are going to be good in next year or 2 years from now. They're going to be reaching their prime. And these are teams that have it. So we're barking up the right tree. I know a little less about some of those players. I kind of looked at them earlier when I saw those names mentioned. And I think you're looking at a comparable return to what Buffalo is offering. Now, you don't have a flashy name like Jack Quinn, but there's, also about 400 of those Quinns running around the league right now. So it's a little easier to find one. But honestly, these are some fantastic prospects. I question all of it. I question what our center depth looks like in the future. I'd like to see a little more guarantee there, but I think the Mammoth one gives us a better shot at some center depth going down, looking down the road. So I don't know if that tips it in the favor for me, but hey, let them keep bidding against each other and see who throws in that extra piece.
Yeah, that's the big thing is if you're getting rid of Robert Thomas, who can be a number 1 center in the NHL, those are very hard players to find. And so you almost have to try to trade for a future number 1 center. Even if you think Dvorsky is the guy, you still don't want to trade for somebody who has number 2 potential. Let's go get in someone else who has 1 potential and figure out which one's going to be the 1 and which one's going to be the 2. Or you end up with a, not anywhere this great, but like a Crosby Malkin situation where you have a number 1 on the first line and a number 1 on the second line. I'm not trying to say that Dvorsky is Malkin or Crosby.
He's good though.
Yeah, he is good.
I just double checked. Denoyers he is a center and he was the 4th overall pick just last year in 2025. So he would probably be the guy we're looking at who's going to mature into that same spot. So I for me, little things like that tip that in the favor of what the Mammoth have to offer for me over Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Plus, who wants to go to Buffalo?
Right. Yeah, there's a better chance maybe of Robert Thomas accepting a trade to Utah just with the Bill Armstrong connection. The Clayton Keller St. Louis connection might have that there. And maybe he is just ready to dominate the Blues because that's what the Utah Mammoth do. The Utah Mammoth / Arizona Coyotes. Okay. We have a fan that decided to join in. Dakota, thanks for listening, Dakota. Why the fuck did you comment? Dakota says, do you think that Schenn moves if Thomas doesn't? Maybe a package. Are you saying, Dakota, a package of Schenn and Thomas?
I'm thinking if they're going to move one of them, the other one has to stay. And since Schenn has a 15-team no-trade clause and Thomas has just basically a strict no-trade, I feel like one of those guys has to go. I feel like Schenn has – I mean, you know what you're getting out of him. He's going to be he's going to be at the top of the list when it comes to third-line players. He's a workhorse and an absolute unit. You never know, how these things pan out. But, any team that's going to make a deep playoff run would benefit from a Brayden Schenn. Thomas, more of a skill guy. Schenn's more of a, hey, I'm a defensive player. Put me wherever you need me. He's more of like an Alexander Steen. Remember, if Steener wasn't in that Stanley Cup playoff run, we don't get to the finals. He played fourth line, first line, you name it. That's the type of guy Brayden Schenn is. And so that's why I'm saying if Thomas doesn't move with this big deal, would you throw Schenn and maybe a package? I mean, crazy to say, but maybe grab a rookie in the AHL and see what we can get.
Dakota, you touched on something else I've thought of because obviously I've been thinking about Robert Thomas a lot lately. That doesn't really get said. If you roll the clock back 2 years, and when we're talking about future captains, the first name on everybody's list is Robert Thomas. Everybody says he's going to be the next captain of the St. Louis Blues. Somewhere along the way, he quietly got passed over, and now we're all saying, is it Jake Neighbors? And Thomas, forgive me, but I think he did not mature in the leadership category as much as we hoped. I think the play style is there. I think the skill is there. But as far as the guy who can rally the team, as far as the guy who gets out and gets people behind him to push that engine, I don't think he has what Brayden Schenn has there. Now, clearly, he puts up more points and makes more plays, but you need that. And we all thought it was going to be Thomas, and I don't think it's going to. I think that he did not develop that, and that might tip the scales as far as is he the one that's going to go between him and Schenn.
Yeah, that could be. I never really thought of the idea of Robert Thomas. I know is on the market because he can give us the biggest return, but in my mind, Schenn and Falk are the two veterans that if you can get something for them, now is the time. Don't wait till the summer. Don't wait till whenever. Go take advantage of somebody trying to get into the playoffs right now, and use that kind of that timing to get as much as you can out of them. So if you trade Thomas and you trade Schenn, you've already got rid of Bukestad. You're running out of people to, I don't even say win faceoffs. You're running out of people who can participate in faceoffs. Then your lines are looking like Dvorsky is the 1C, Booch is the 2, Suter as the 3, and Finley as the 4. I guess is how that would work.
Yeah, we could field the team. Of course, the other problem there that we need to talk about is, that does give us 4 centers, but one of them gets injured. Who do we call up? Right now, we got a lot of great prospects, but not centers. We're supposed to have a Zach Dean who would be ready right about now, but he's not ready. He's stalled out in a number of areas. Mm-hmm. Now maybe he'll get there. Maybe he's looked good the last few games after he finally came back, but he's definitely not going to be ready next season. So that's it. We don't have other options unless you bring Sonny back, and I love Sonny, but he's not a 1 or 2C. He can pull off a 4 or 3C, but let's face it, that's he's he may not be old as far as years, but the mileage,
Mm-hmm.
Sonny's taking a good beating. He's the definition of take one for the team, and he probably might want to walk for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the next man up that is not currently on the Blues roster would probably be that Akil Thomas that we picked up when we got rid of Nikita Alexandrov. Nikita Alexandrov played center. He was the one we sent him away, and Akil Thomas is just another AHL center, but would probably be next man up there. Richard, a guy that we were talking about before we got on air, and we just kind of brought him up as we're talking about centers, is kind of the lack of rumors or the lack of potential movement in Pius Suter. What's your thoughts on that?
You mentioned Schenn and Falk. Suter's right there with it. He's one of those guys where he's a veteran guy at this point in time. He can play center. Now, once again, I think he's a guy who's probably a little overqualified as a 3C and a little underqualified as a 2C. Fits right in there somewhere. But for a team who's looking to upgrade, say like that 3C spot, we'd be willing to retain on him. That'd be a good $2 million pickup because I think he's 4 right now. So that'd be an easy one for somebody. 4.125. Yeah. So basically, $2 million, they could have themselves a solid 3C. I don't know what the return would be. I don't think it would be high. I don't think it'd be a lot, but we could easily get a second or maybe a late first for him. So I'm surprised that we don't hear the chatter. Now, he's got the same problem all 3 of those people mentioned, is that none of them are rentals. They would have to deal with them for next season as well, which dampens things a little bit. But if they're looking for an upgrade, they might be willing to go 2 seasons with somebody.
Yeah, especially if the Blues are willing to eat any salary in that. Like, Pius Suter at $2 million for the rest of this year and next year is probably a steal. Like,
it's the other thing we need to look at is that, we're in a good cap position. Many teams are not. Even the cap going way up, it's bailed a lot of teams out, but there's still some of them really trying to just chase that cap. That gives us opportunities. If we didn't have that flexibility, we don't have Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway. We did that because, we were able to kind of, I think a less vulgar phrase, but we were kind of going to be able to leverage Edmonton's cap position with ours and stole some players. I don't know that we're going to see as many of those opportunities this year, but it sure does leverage us with trades because now we can take on some cap space if need be for the short term in order to get the return we want.
Yeah, I know that was continuing to speak with the veterans here of Justin Falk. Is the biggest suitor for Justin Falk is most likely going to be Edmonton, and they are a team that is cap strapped. They have a guy in Panjamine or something. I'm not pronouncing that right. But they have a guy up there that is making a decent salary that they are trying to get off of, and I guess they are struggling with. And so if they can't get off of him, any trade that goes into Edmonton most likely would have to retain salary. And last thing I read is the Blues did not want to retain salary on Falk. But if they were able to, I think there's a deal there to be made to Edmonton because Edmonton is, they've already traded goalies. So they're trying to get over the hump. And it's looking like Florida Panthers won't make the playoffs this year. So it could be Edmonton's to win.
I saw that earlier. I don't know if you guys ever go on to Tankathon and just hit the lottery button just to see how things go. And just on a whim, I hit the lottery button, and the team that got the first overall pick was the Florida Panthers. And I had that moment where I'm like, what? That can't be. And I looked, and sure enough, they are sitting 20th in the league, so they could move up. Or not 20th, they're 24th, I think, right now. Mm-hmm. But they could theoretically move back 10 spots and get that first overall. And it's like they just came off 2 Stanley Cup wins, and they're not even going to not even make the playoffs. Winnipeg Jets, same thing. They won the President's Trophy last year. They may not have ran deep, but they're down at the bottom with us as well. It's an element people aren't talking about this year as much as I'd like them to be talking about is how good the league is. Everybody wants to say, oh, the Blues got worse. The Blues got worse. I know Dakota mentioned earlier that we looked good on paper. I think the problem was we were comparing that to last year's papers. I don't know that we got that much worse. I think the league got that much better.
Yeah, Winnipeg, pretty much the same team, just losing Ehlers to Carolina, and then Florida just Kachuk out for most of the season. God, Barkov out all year. Could you imagine though if that team just somehow gets ultra lucky and ends up with either Gavin McKenna or Ivor Stenberg? Like they'd go on and win 2 more or 3 more cups. Like
I'd probably break things.
yeah,
if
it's
that
be like
happens.
at that point, just every NHL team, just sell your players because you're not gonna win. Like just get rid of them for at least the next 4 years. Because I think Florida has their core signed through the next 4 or 5. It's like,
Of course, they don't actually have the first round pick to get him with. That's a problem.
oh,
there, too.
that's true. Okay, that's fair. So whoever has Florida's pick is looking pretty. That makes sense. Yeah, does Chicago have their pick?
Chicago has their pick. Yeah,
In the
they're
Seth
from
Jones deal.
That's from the Seth Jones trade. Yeah, and Spencer Knight. Yeah, that
Yep.
Chicago has their pick.
All right. Well, that doesn't. I saw somebody on Puckpedia who said that we should trade Robert Thomas to Chicago, and it was for this trade would never happen because it's Chicago. But it was Kevin Korchinski, Oliver Moore, a goalie prospect of some sort, and then Florida's first round pick. So yeah, that's actually not a terrible return. I know Korchinski's kind of fallen out of grace there. He was supposed to be a number 1 D-man, but I know they like Oliver Moore. So who knows? We're still not trading with Chicago. You cannot put Robert Thomas in a Blackhawks jersey.
I'm still mad that they took Panger from us.
Right? Yeah. We're so Dakota, any players or rumors or anything that's popping out to you right now over the either last couple hours or days?
Not much rumors. I think it's more of us trying to create a rumor. Is where is Bennington going to go? Where is Bennington going to be in the next, calendar couple months? I think we all have an idea in our head of where he should be, and that's not with this team. Maybe I speak just for myself there, but I don't know. I just feel like you gotta start moving away from a guy that definitely peaked in 2019. I mean, we could talk about forwards and defensemen all day long, but you're going to need somebody between the pipes that's going to be able to stop pucks. And I think Joel Hofer's your answer. If you would have said that, 50 games ago, I would have stuck my foot in my mouth. But he showed resiliency and learned that, things come in strides. But I do think Benner is a guy that you got to get rid of. But that's the thing is goaltenders are a dime a dozen in this league, and you don't really see many goaltenders leave nowadays at the deadline. Unless you're, Edmonton and Florida, but or Boston for that matter. But I'm just curious why we haven't seen more of that. Is it because of his shitty start? Is it because of the season as a whole? Is it because of his, lackluster performance last year and barely getting us to the playoffs? Like, I don't know what else there is to say about it, but I would love to see a rumor with him. But I just really haven't seen much with that. But yeah, I'm curious what happens there.
Bennington's got the same problem as Falk and Shin and Suitors, that he's also got another year on his contract. So he's not a rental. They'd have to fit him in next year as well. And nobody has to preach to me about Joel Hofer. I've been a fan of his since he went down with Springfield Thunderbirds. He was crazy good down there. And I liked, it wasn't very many games in. I can't remember exactly where it was or even who they're playing. But somebody kept backing into the crease on him. They back in, and he finally had enough, and he stood up, and he just punched that dude right in the back and knocked him on his face. And I was sold right there. That was it. That's all it took for me is seeing somebody who's willing to do that without a thought. And so I'm a Hofer fan ever since then.
Weird side note then to kind of peel off of that. Are you now a diehard Will Cranley fan?
I liked Will Cranley. I was sad that he got picked up as well. Everybody likes to blame Doug for that, and I blame Bennington because
Are you thinking Colton Ellis?
Sorry. Colton Ellis.
So Will Cranley. Let me find the comment.
conflated those two.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Will Cranley the other night got
Mhm.
into a goalie fight in Springfield. So, and it was a
Did
good,
see that.
it was a good
Ah,
one. Like masks were off, they were throwing hands. It was pretty good. Cranley's whole jersey got taken off.
Yeah, Cranley lost that fight. Let's
Yeah,
be
oh, for
honest.
sure he did. Yeah.
He lost the fight
Oh,
every
yeah.
game. So, but I'll give him credit for skating out there and going at it.
Yep. Yeah. But the Colton Ellis loss, it definitely hurts.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
agree with you on that.
I conflated two AHL goalies there.
Yeah, right.
Um,
That's okay. They're not with us yet. We don't care about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the hard part as far as goalie or trading Bennington is one, it's really hard to be a good team and have a bad goalie. So the good teams that are in the playoffs or in a playoff spot all typically have pretty decent goalies. The exception is Edmonton, who has already tried trading for a goalie, and rumors are is that they're gonna, stay in the bed that they've made here and push with Tristan Yari. They already made a move. It's not working well, but they are going to try their best and see how that goes. They also have other positions of need, including that right side defense that Justin Falk could fit in. And I think they might be looking for a third line center. So maybe Pia Suter fills in there. Maybe there's a marriage there of that type of move. Besides that, yeah, it's hard to find a market for the goalies. Rumor also out there is that the Florida Panthers are struggling to re-sign Bobrovsky. They've recently gave a lot of money to a lot of their players that helped them win Stanley Cups. And so they're lacking on cap space. Bob's already at $10 million. He might want a pay raise, and that's going to be hard to fit. So if they can't do that and they're not going to make the playoffs, Bobrovsky might be out there. And if he's out there, you're trading for him before you're trading for Jordan Binnington, depending
Speaking
on
of
price.
trades, looks like while we're talking, Minnesota Wilds acquire Michael McCarron from the Nashville Predators for a 2028 second-round pick. That's exactly the kind of trade I was talking about a few minutes or a little bit ago, where they're upgrading presumably their 3C spot with somebody who they think is going to help them a little bit in the playoffs there. I think that's the kind of trade we're going to see more of as we get closer to the deadline.
All right. Go ahead, Dakota.
I also saw on Twitter Brian Lawton just tweeted saying the Blues appear to be ready to move on from Jordan Binnington as he has a 16-team no-trade list. But since the Blues currently are moving in the wrong direction, that this might be a foregone conclusion at this stage of where the St. Louis Blues are headed. So that also is something to look out for. I don't see the Blues just going blockbuster and just trading all the big names, but I wouldn't be mad either. Like we got to start thinking about what we're going to look like in the coming years. And if I'm Alexander Steen, you want a good core group to build around. You got some in Stenberg, Dvorsky, and Jimmy Snuggerud. That is a three-headed monster. I know I talked about the two-headed monster in Dvorsky and Snuggerud, but you got, and hell, I mean, honestly, if everything goes right, we pick up Ivar. Like that's a really nice unit to kind of build your team around with the young rookies having great ice time and Snuggerud and Dvorsky and kind of like developing that chemistry, but also kind of looking forward I think we need to improve on our back end. I think our defensive units need to be a little better and a little tighter. If you get Justin Falk out of here, you're going to want, at least some sort of like experience on that end. But I'd be curious to see how crazy we get this trade deadline with now Benner kind of exposing that 16 teams.
And you're right. I'm a big fan of Otto Stenberg. I'm kind of on the Ivar train. I don't know that I want us to go out of our way to get him too much, but if it's convenient, man, why not? That would be fun. But if you look at our current roster, we have to move people out before next season just to get some of the people in that we want. In my mind, Stenberg's he's earned a spot For when he's up there, he said, "I'm ready to play the NHL." The only reason he's not right there right now is because he's an easy one to leave in the AHL. We can move him around without struggling. But for forwards, we got what Holiday. It's easy for me to say. Dylan Holloway, Berggren, and Sundqvist are the only three that we have come up. Sonny, the UFA, the other two are RFAs. Now, everybody'd be furious if we didn't sign Holloway. That's an easy one. I actually like Berggren. I think he's pretty good on the third line. I like he battles, he digs out some pucks. But do we need him? I don't know that we need him. And I will cry when Sonny's no longer on the team. But again, do you hold a spot from one of these young guys for him? I have a hard time. The fan in me says yes. The realist in me and the guy trying to play armchair GM says no. But somebody there has to go just to bring Stenberg up. You also have Carbonneau, who could potentially make the team next year. I don't give that about a 40% chance of happening, but 40% is not nothing. But if he does, who else goes? If we trade for a couple of young players, you got to move somebody out just to fit them in the roster.
Yeah,
I have a question for you.
Too many people.
I have a question that I think would be nice to kind of talk about because we've seen this done with Schenn this year. Barring crazy things happening, we end up selling basically half the team. If there's a young guy that you have right now on your roster, and I'm including Otto in that as well, and let's just, for shits and gigs, we'll throw Ivar there too. If there's a guy on your roster, who are you going to transition to the center spot if we are lacking coming into next year?
I mean, they're doing it right now with Bucci. Honestly, I was not a fan when we did that with Bannister. I thought that's why Bucci's performance went down. That was the mantra I said for the most of that year and part of the next year. And then when he didn't do well back on wing, it's like, well, putting him on center screwed him up. But as a thought exercise here about a month or so ago, I went and actually made a graph of his performance over the last several years since we traded and got him from New York. And it's been a steady decline. It's not been peaks and valleys like you think. It's been a fairly steady decline. I love Bucci, but you can't ignore the stats. However, since we put him back at center these last few games, he's looked good. I also think, Monty said that he gave him a lot of influence over that line, said you call the plays, you make things happen. And maybe that's helped him somewhat. So maybe he's the answer at your 3C. I mean, I hate putting an $8 million guy at a 3C, but if that's what it is, it doesn't hurt having somebody his caliber there.
I do believe, and I think Cody is listening right now, so Cody can fact check me on this if he'll know the answer. But I believe Otto Stenberg played some center growing up, possibly in Europe before he got drafted. I know primarily he has played on the wing in the AHL and definitely on the wing when he's been up with the Blues. But that would maybe be the move.
The T-Birds play him at center some.
Oh, okay.
They're there too. Yeah.
So that would probably be, if you're looking for a player to fill that role, it could be kind of like a Schenn situation. Is I think the Blues like Schenn in the middle, but I think he does better on the wing. And Otto could be the same way. You might like him in the middle, but you see him being better on the wing. Or he could just be getting kind of the Robert Thomas treatment of, we're going to get your feet wet on the wing before we put you to the middle.
And that elevates players too. If you look back to when we had Schenn, Schwartz, and Tarasenko, one of the best lines we ever put together. Obviously Schenn was the center of that, but Schwartz and Tarasenko were guys who could make plays as well. They could rotate around and they could cover any position if need be. And that's part of the reason that line was so good, is they became unpredictable. You didn't know who was going to be where, and they didn't lose anything when somebody was out of position. They just covered it and moved on.
Yeah. We did have Jeremy ask a good question here. So I'm kind of going back to the Minnesota Wild pickup of Michael McCarron. Interestingly, I thought this, a second round pick for a 30-year-old who has 12 points. right now. Fills the center role, only making 900,000, so works, fits that depth piece, possibly that fourth line role, and is very cheap. So maybe that is what drives that price up. But a 2028 second round pick. So the Wild, I think, are kind of like, I don't care. That's so far away. Take whatever you want, kind of thing. Jeremy asked, how does this affect the Wild potentially acquiring any more players? Specifically, the Minnesota Wild have been documented as being in on the Robert Thomas sweepstakes, whatever you want to call it. But there's also been thought of them looking at the Rangers and getting Vincent Trocheck as well. To me, this is a depth pickup and doesn't really affect any potential Robert Thomas or Vincent Trocheck deal.
Yeah, they just got to send somebody back. If they wanted to trade for Thomas, we'd have to eat some cap in return. Not necessarily a lot, but there'd have to be some. I don't know that they have the prospects that we want. They would have the picks, but once again, I don't think we want picks because they don't have their 2026. So we'd be looking at least a 2027. I mean, there's a few names here, but I'm not seeing anybody that jumps out at me and says, yeah, they would be. That's a great young prospect. I mean, David Jiricek, we could have the Jiricek brothers. And he's actually not a bad prospect.
Yeah. And I think a lot of rumors when it comes to Minnesota is Jesper Wallstedt, their goalie. So actually their backup goalie, technically. But that would be the major return as far as that piece. Cody did add, I was like, I knew Cody would have some information for us. He said he did, this is referring back to Otto Stenberg. He came up as a center, but nothing pro level at the middle. A lot more responsibility is at the center position, and he just hasn't seen enough from him on the dot to know if that's something he can do. And so, like I said, Cody's the guy that loves prospects, loves watching and really paying attention to this stuff. So not a guy that you're going to see live on Twitter or ESPN, but definitely knows his stuff.
I trust those people sometimes more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the other guys are just doing it for whatever. Roger's got a good question here. He says, out of all these players that we've mentioned, and actually Jordan Kyrou is one we haven't brought up at all yet. But who do you think is the most likely to not be traded, Richard?
Man, I'm going to say it. Binnington. I don't think anybody wants him. Even at $3 million. I think everybody's saying, nah, we're good. There's several other options, especially if somebody like that Wallstedt is a possibility because he's somebody they could build on in the future. And I know there's other options out there, but I don't think anybody's biting. I think we would all want to see him go, but I don't think there's any takers.
Yeah, goalies are hard. And yeah, I mean, I don't think the Olympics hurt Jordan Binnington's stock, but I don't know if they necessarily overinflated it. I think they just kind of maybe brought it back to normal.
Yeah, they really tried to pump up the idea that he's the guy who's there when you need it. And I don't know that that's necessarily untrue, but yeah, I'm getting chirped a little here for that one already. You can say that all you want. They would take him in an instant, $3 million, but here we are, and they haven't. So if they take him in an instant, why hasn't it happened yet?
Right. We do have Brad from the St. Louis Blues Hockey Memes commenting. And for those of you listening, and in case you didn't know, the word meme is something it means something that you should take ultra realistically. Everything the St. Louis Blues Hockey Memes post is 100% factual and true, including all of the free kitten giveaways. All of those, 100% factually true. That's what memes says. That's what memes is. I know Brad's run into some problems of having people very, very mad at him for not earning kittens, I guess. Nah. He just added biblical. It's biblical.
No, it's all good. I'm down for a good meme and a good troll here and there. And by all means, take me to task. But I mean, that's the thing. We got to have a dance partner. Somebody has to want these people
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to trade for them. And it's not as easy as just say, hey, let's take all these people. We don't always get to fleece Buffalo for Berglund and Sobotka.
Right.
And honestly, they got, who was it, Ryan Johnson with the first that we gave him, who turned out to be a nothing burger. So really the only thing they got out of it was Tage Thompson, which was admittedly quite a bit, but we got a
Pretty
cup, so I
solid
think we
player.
still
Yeah.
win.
Right. Jordan Kyrou, a name that we've somehow gone 55 minutes and hardly brought up. A name that was a lot more in the rumor mill for some reason 3 weeks ago, but now just seems to kind of has faded away. Richard, do you see any movement on Jordan Kyrou?
I think there's still talks. I think part of the reason why we're not hearing about Kyrou so much is because everybody realizes that Robert Thomas is actually available. And when that happened, Jordan Kyrou, what's the meme where the guy looking back at the other girl? It's very much that meme right now. I'm assuming there's still talks going on. There's a lot of teams that would definitely take Jordan Kyrou. I'm actually a little bigger on Kyrou than most people. I know he's been the punching bag for a lot of fans for a long time, and he's earned a bit of that. But I think he's a good player. I think once you get out of the mindset that he's a 100-point player, as soon as you realize that he's a guy that's going to give you 60 points a season, and that's worth $8 million in today's market, you suddenly realize that he's valuable. He's a little bit of a diva and makes you want to punch him in the face every now and then, which I know rubs fans the wrong way, including myself at times. But, I mean, the numbers are there.
Yeah. Dakota, you got anyone else who you're kind of like needs to go or that we need to talk about more in depth here?
No, I've already mentioned my, being that it is Benner, sure, he might not go this, trade deadline, but I do think he's off the roster come next year. But no, Justin Falk, I really don't see much rumor mill. We obviously think it would be in our benefit to get rid of him, but that's a player that I feel like could add a huge depth in somebody's defensive core going into the playoff push. He's smart. Hell, he led our team in points for a decent minute, which is kind of crazy to think about. But that's a guy that you haven't really seen too much about. We talk about it all the time just because we see him every day. But that's something I think could be an added benefit to any team making a playoff push. But I'm curious next time we talk if number 18 is playing for a different team. So that would be a huge bonus for us, hopefully. But it would be a sad time in St. Louis because that guy was super influential in us winning the cup in his rookie year.
I've got one for you that is probably going to ruffle some feathers. Hear me out, though. Dylan Holloway. I think he's extremely marketable. I think teams are going to want him. I think he's essentially a rental this year, somebody that they can then turn around and sign long term. And the reason I say this is because I don't know where he fits in the future. He's a good player. He's a guy who's going to put up points every year. He's a good winger. But is he a first-line winger, a second-line winger, a third-line winger? I don't think he's a first. I think he's at best a second. Now, we need that, but I think we've got a lot of people coming in. They're going to fill that role. Stenberg, Snuggerud. I think Carbonneau is going to get there, especially if then we can turn around and get somebody in one of these other trades that's going to be in line soon, let alone whatever picks we might get for him. It'll be people coming down the road. I think we could afford to lose him, especially for a guy who we essentially got for a third-round pick. If we can turn around and grab some first-round picks, not future picks, but kind of like these other trades, you got some maybe prospects who are in that realm. But he's an NHL-ready player now. So some of those names we've already mentioned could be brought in there in his place, and I think we could afford to do it. So I think Holloway would be an interesting trade right now.
You did get some grilling a little bit on the Facebook there. Some posts there. Just St. Louis Blues hockey. Brad says, I bet Richards thinks we're trading Louis. Here's the deal. When it comes to Holloway, what's the best ability of any player? It's availability. And his availability has just not been there. So you could absolutely make a deal for Holloway and it shoot you in the foot, because then he becomes and starts playing 82 games a season as a dominant player. But you could also, like you just said, kind of take advantage of his stock, get rid of him, and he can only play 60 games a year and gets hurt in the first round of every playoff series. So, I mean, I'm not absolutely against it like some of our fans are here. I'm also on the side of every player is available for the price. So it kind of depends on, if you're getting rid of Holloway, what are you getting in return?
Yeah, we're not going to get rid of him for a bag of pucks.
Right.
But and we're not going to get what we get for Thomas. But, if we could get, maybe a pick and one of these good replacement prospects, I think you got to seriously consider that, and maybe throw in Louis just to sweeten the deal.
Dakota, you want to help Brad here defend Dylan Holloway?
No, like, what are we doing? Like, why? No, I've been silent. I've been trying to be a good guy. Like, I think I say some really controversial shit. And Richard, I appreciate you jumping on the bandwagon of controversial shit. But like, what are we doing here, right? Like, we got to talk about guys that are expendable. And Dylan Holloway is not one of those guys. You don't get an offer sheet guy like that every day. So we should take full advantage of it. And sending him as trade bait, not the smartest move. But again, we're armchair GMs. That's where I stand.
That's a good one.
I thought that was going to be worse. I was ready for more.
No, I gotta keep it PG. This is a hockey podcast. I know we like to shit talk all the time, but got to stay reserved. I'm trying to boost my energy for Friday and finding out one of my favorite players has been traded somewhere else. God forbid it be Buffalo. We all know how much I hated the Tage Thompson trade. Let's just add, Robert Thomas to the whole mix. All right. I'm still trying to get over that. It's been a couple years.
It's the old adage, what's the sign of a good negotiation when both sides are unhappy?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way trades are. If both teams are unhappy, there's a good chance that worked out.
All right. Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Braden Shen, Justin Falk, Jordan Binnington. Those are probably the big five.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The big five that we've talked about. Am I missing anybody?
Dylan Holloway.
I'm not going to throw Dylan out. I'm going to stick with those five.
I've not heard anybody ever mention Holloway.
All right.
I'm probably the first one to do it.
Yeah.
So
he's never on the ice. You can't trade a guy that can't play.
Yeah, all right.
Come on now.
So those five, Richard, my question to you is, when Dakota and I get back on Tuesday or Monday next week, how many of those five are not on the St. Louis Blues?
Okay, I'm ready to be disappointed here. I really am.
Hold on, let me sit on my hands.
I know we all want there to be some trades. I mentioned earlier somewhere else that right now Blues fans are all saying we have to make trades, but then they're quickly going, no, not that guy. No, not that guy. I really think that this trade deadline is going to be lighter than the past ones. I think the new cap rules are really going to put people in a tough position. Now, that's not to say there aren't going to be moves. I think we're going to see more moves like the Minnesota one, or people who are trying to just do some minor upgrades here and there. Because once again, they can't get people as cheap as they used to. And you have to be cap compliant during each playoff game. So you can't be $20 million over the cap like teams have been for the last few years. So that's going to throw a little cold water on some of these trades. I think there's a chance that we're going to see very few trades. I'd be surprised if one or two isn't wishful thinking.
I think I'm on I think I'm on the 2 boat too. Roger is going to throw in, and I haven't seen a whole lot, but I know the Blues fans like to hate on Parayko.
No.
But I haven't seen a whole lot as far as Parayko type rumors. I do know if he was out there, that would probably be one. People are going to ask about Parayko before they default to Justin Falk. Is most likely how that would go.
Well, he's
I
got
got a
4 more years.
Yeah.
I got a stipulation. So Thatcher Demko was just placed on LTIR by the Vancouver Canucks. Bennett is from, now people can quote me because obviously I don't know my Canadian provinces, but I believe he's close to there. Was where he was like born. Would you see him getting like a slight return home, knowing that, I mean, yes, Vancouver is last in the league, but decent upgrade from Thatcher Demko. And then us seeing Robert Thomas go to Buffalo with Owen Power coming to St. Louis. Honestly, I think that's a successful deadline.
You're sending Binnington to
Vancouver.
Binnington, I believe, has a 15-team no trade, and I would guess Vancouver would be on it. I don't see why.
Those
Binnington
Canadian folk love coming home.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a 14 team no trade, but
Okay.
yeah. Typically the Canadian teams are on there. Of course, he could always just waive it if he wanted to.
Yeah.
I think that would tell us a lot whether or not he decided to squash some deal like that. But Vancouver is a team that's willing to make moves. The question is, why do they do it at the trade deadline? They know they're not going to be better this year.
Yeah.
So, I always say teams don't tank, but GMs do. The players don't have it in them to not try and win, but the GMs can definitely lower the chances. So why would Vancouver try to improve themselves right now to finish a little better, get the pick, and do that in the offseason? That's the only thing I'm going to say about that. But, yeah, it is at least a realistic landing point.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, my thoughts would be, when we look back at the 5 players I mentioned, it would be Justin Falk, and then either, unfortunately, Robert Thomas or Braden Shen. I like the idea, Dakota, that you brought up of I probably can't be both. Probably cannot be Shen and Thomas being traded. It's probably got to be one or the other. Yep. So,
I'm still getting it.
yeah, I'm about to call Brad's mom and tell him to kick him off the internet. I never got to ad reads because we were just going crazy. So make sure you guys are checking out Scooter's Coffee. We could have just been on Scooter's Coffee. We could probably keep going, just high on caffeine. Specifically, if you can scoot on around to the drive-thrus on Highway 143 and Troxler Way in Highland, or Vandalia Street and Indiana Avenue in Collinsville. If you cannot check either of those out, you can go to any of the 30 locations in the greater St. Louis area. That is amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. Scooter's Coffee. Also, make sure you guys check out Hughes Custom Design. They're a family-owned and run small business that is operated out of Maryville, Illinois. They specialize in laser-cut, hand-painted signs, and they have options that are typically ready upon request, just like the Blue Note. Or they can complete almost any request for any custom job. That is Hughes Custom Design on Facebook. And then lastly, check out Imprint Labs. They specialize in bringing your brand to life with custom laser engraved Richardson hats and vibrant custom sublimated metal prints. High quality or whether you want to make a statement where reading is hard. With high quality headwear or showcase your designs on eye-catching metal art, we deliver precision, durability, and style every time. Elevate your brand with Imprint Labs, where your vision meets our craftsmanship. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram. Also, make sure you come hang out with us next Thursday at Friday South in Collinsville. We'll be having a watch party for the Blues versus Carolina Hurricanes game. Okay. AOL is too slow. Oh, that's okay. I was like, what is Roger talking? I thought Roger puts AOL is too slow. I thought AOL was like the initials of a player. But he's talking about the dial-up that
America Online
that Brad is using. I was like, Oliver Ekman Larson? Like, no.
Yeah.
All right. Richard, anybody else you want to talk about any players that we missed. I mean, I know you brought up the Holloway. I think it's pretty safe to say that anybody else on this roster, either nobody probably wants or the Blues are not trading. Like obviously Dvorsky, Stuggerud, Otto Stenberg, all those young guys are not going anywhere. I think we've pretty much covered everybody else.
Yeah.
Except Nathan Walker or Alexei Torchenko.
Yeah,
you see those guys moving?
No, nobody. I mean, they're great for what they do.
Right.
They're not top sixers, but they do their job and they do it well. And who doesn't love Nathan Walker? He's our little short king out there, taking on everybody and anybody every night. Jack Finley, I like just for the sole purpose of the fact not only is he from St. Louis, but he was drafted with St. Louis's pick. That was our pick that was traded to Montreal, then to the Lightning, and then we pick him off waivers. So we got that pick back essentially in a roundabout way, and things like that always I find funny. It seems like it was meant to be or something. I do think it's interesting that we talked very little about defensive men besides Justin Falk. I think our future actually looks good at defense. I think Lindstein, Yersak, people like that coming in, we've got a decent pipeline there. So, we don't necessarily need a lot for the future. Now, more is always better. We are going to be in an interesting spot this year with our draft pick, because if we don't get one or two where you're looking at a McKenna or a Stenberg, your next several guys are D-men. Now, that's not a terrible idea. We can, stock the tank there if we need be, but I think we could use a forward bit more in our pipeline right now, especially somebody of that caliber, but we may not have that choice. Where our pick lands may decide that for us. So that'll be interesting to see. I do want to see the kid line. I know Dakota was talking about, Dvorsky and Snuggerud and that dynamic duo that they are. I actually want to see Stenberg on the other wing and put together a kid line again, just to see how fun that is. I think that would be a good combo and a fun combo to watch, and might make for an interesting second line for us next year if that is indeed how the cards fall. Otto Stenberg, that is.
All right.
Ivar, if we manage to draft him, we'll see if he's NHL ready from day one and where he fits.
So Roger just brought up a very interesting question. And before I pull it up, I want to check something here real quick to see if I can't get a. See, that's.
I was asked this question the other day, that very same question with a specific player in mind. I'll let you.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to do, is come up with a player that we would trade. So Roger's question is, would the Blues even entertain the thought of trading their first round pick for someone to help right away? And in my thought, you have to imagine that you are trading away Gavin McKenna. Like, your pick is hopefully turning into Gavin McKenna. So you would want to go try to find somebody that is similar to that. But Richard, you said you had a player?
Yeah. So somebody posed this question to me because I made a flippant comment, something along the lines of, you don't trade that pick away. And the comeback was, would you do it for Matthew Tkachuk?
Oh, okay.
Florida's out of a playoff spot. They have basically no pipeline and no picks.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do to get better?
Right. So I was thinking of Elias Peterson from Vancouver, who I know has a terrible cap. His cap hit's like 11 million. So that hurts and makes that one more difficult. The Devils aren't great. So could you get a Nico Hischier? Maybe a Jack Hughes. Like, would you be willing to pull the trigger for a massive name like that? Or like you said, Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, the idea holds. There's a number of names you could plug in there. Obviously anybody named Hughes is on that list. And the Devils need to do something. Elias Pettersson makes me shake my head because there's just too much floating around about that guy. It sounds like he might be half the reason the Canucks imploded to begin with. And we've already got one diva, unless we decide to swap divas, see how that plays out. But, clearly he's available. We could fit the 11.6 next year. That's there. especially when you consider we still got Krug on LTIR for one more year. So we could do it, but I don't see that that's a major upgrade for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it just goes back to the, everything is for sale for the right price. And so now it's very unlikely that any of those people, especially right now, like taking that risk at the deadline, like you can't go out and trade for, let's say, Nico Hischier from the Devils, because the Devils are like, we're not going to make it, so we're going to take the Blues pick because we're hoping it gets us Gavin McKenna or it gets us Ivar Stenberg or maybe even Keaton Verhoff. And then because the Blues now have Nico Hischier, they go on a run and we end up with the 10th pick. And then New Jersey's like, oh, shit. We just traded Nico Hischier for the 2nd overall or for the 10th overall pick.
If that happens again, that's going to be an off-season trade more than it is a trade deadline. Deadline plays tend to be about the people going, trying for a deep run, wanting to shore up what they think needs shored up until then. You mentioned Elias Pettersson again. Why would they make that trade now and possibly end up with a worse pick? But just let it play out. Let the tank do whatever it's going to do, and take the best pick possible, and then see what you can shake up in the offseason.
Right. That whole strategy of losing or trading their first round pick might be something the Devils are more likely to do, because they do have a decent roster and a good young core. So getting somebody wherever the Devils end up right now, they're at 60 points, which puts them within the top 10. So top 10 pick might not help them, but someone may want to jump up into the top 10 and then they can get a NHL ready player. So that might be a better strategy for someone like New Jersey, where Blues might be on the downhill and New Jersey's on the up.
Yeah, that's a fun one to look at because, like I say, New Jersey's at 26 now. So if you just jump up 10 points, which it'd be tough, but a team could gain 10 points between now and the end of the season, that puts you at 12th currently. That just shows you how much of the league is within a very narrow band of point value right now. So it is going to be fun to watch other teams fight for playoff spots to a certain degree. And I do agree with Dakota to a certain degree that we got to make some changes. I think we're going to see more of it in the offseason than we do at the trade deadline. And I'm to the point where I'm willing to let some pieces go that are going to break my heart.
All right. Well, we are in for a very interesting next 3 days. It's going to be crazy. Luckily, I get all notifications from Jeremy Rutherford sent to my phone, so I'll be paying attention. When I got the notification today that said that Robert Thomas has not been asked to waive his no trade clause to Buffalo, I freaked out and read it as Robert Thomas has been asked to waive his no trade clause to Buffalo. So I immediately started trying to, I literally told my students, I was like, guys, I'm going to be MIA for a couple minutes because I had to go look through and see what we were trading or what it was. And then I reread the tweet and I was like, oh, has not. I thought he was going to Buffalo. So yeah, make sure you guys are reading on social media the correct things. And also, one thing I've noticed, because my feed is all just NHL rumors, watch out for clickbait. There are so many, I'm just going to say, piece of shit Facebook social media people out there that are only creating things for clickbait. There's rumors out there that we're trading Robert Thomas for Brady Tkachuk. Like, that's not happening. Like, Brady Tkachuk is not on the market. So don't click that shit, because those people, I hate those people that post that stuff online. Either have a real source or create your own like realistic content, but that's just clickbait bullshit and I don't like it. So yeah. Dakota, anything else?
No, like you said, it's gonna be a very exciting next couple of days, and buckle up, St. Louis. Come hell or high water, things are about to happen, whether we're gonna hit the shitter or we're gonna be shit. So have fun. Wish you luck. Drink multiple beers, and we'll catch you on the other side next Tuesday or Monday. And hopefully we're here to talk about some crazy things.
Well, we will see what happened. Richard, thank you so much Awesome episode. Lots of information. Appreciate it. You know your stuff. So we'll have to get you back on. Maybe you're our trade deadline guy now. Maybe next year.
I mean, if you want to stir up some business here, then absolutely. But no, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. Dakota, thanks for not giving me both barrels. I think there might have been a few moments where you wanted to. Brad out there at the St. Louis Blues hockey memes, thank you. You complete me. But it's going to be fun and exciting, guys. So yeah, one way or the other, we're going to have something to talk about. If it's good or bad, it's still going to be news
for sure. All right. Make sure you guys are checking out Scooters. Look up Hughes Custom Design and Imprint Labs on Facebook. Come hang out with us next Thursday at Friday South in Collinsville. Richard, give me a big let's go Blues, and we'll get out of here.
All righty. Let's go Blues.
All right. See you, everybody.